All right. Well, hello everyone to our first episode ever of Wholesome Transmissions Live. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. This is a bit of an experiment for all of us. Thank you, Schkrimps, for graciously hosting this episode. Um, we've never done something live like this. We're trying it out for something that's a little more interactive with our audience and also kind of a sort of a fun experience as we are kind of entering into more of a lockdown potentially because of what's going on in the country with COVID. But I thought it would be something that would be interesting as we sort of end the year and get started for next season to kind of talk about the world and how things are going for everyone. So um, we will be monitoring chat throughout the episode so that everyone knows, but we will primarily be sticking to questions that have been sent beforehand. Then as the episode progresses, we might tune in. We will be reading your messages, and we appreciate everything that you send for us. But yeah, if you haven't been aware, this show is basically a show about video games and people. And Schkrimps, I see you laughing over there.
Yeah, I'm laughing
How
at.
are you doing tonight,
I'm
friend?
I'm laughing at Griff. I'm great. I'm inside. I'm safe. I'm here with my buds. Um, before
Good.
you guys, control your own show. Thank you guys for tuning into the
No, go
stream.
ahead.
And we're gonna do a poll real quick. Which one of the three of us looks
Yeah.
most like the logo? That's what.
Most like the
That's the
logo.
poll that we're gonna do, and then you can have your show
Oh
back.
my goodness. That's fine. I'm a fan. I would like to be a part of that poll. Let me see how I can. How do I respond to the poll?
Oh, I'm
Or
quiet.
if I could just get the hair to do that real quick.
I don't know. I would say
How about now? I'm
volume is
probably
a.
not quiet now. I turned my mic up. Okay. Yeah.
That's good. We'll get the technical difficulties out of the way first before we
Bang.
start
Done.
discussing. Wonderful. I would honestly think that I think Scrimps, you embody our logo the best. We actually, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but we envisioned our logo after you all the way from the start. We thought that your face, your head structure
Mm-hmm.
kind of looks like a pineapple.
Yeah.
And perhaps if you grew a mohawk, it
I
would
think
be a pineapple.
if I flip my head
You
this
just gotta,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, just like exactly.
Yeah.
If you grew your goatee,
Uh-huh.
it would be perfect. And I've been hinting at for many months and suggesting that you grow it out for that very reason, but you haven't really taken us up on that.
Yeah.
But I think that you
maybe
take
in
the
the
cake.
future I can be your son, but for now
For now, you're still our dad.
Yeah. I'm my own dad
Yeah.
for now.
Do we have poll results? Do we have anyone chime in?
They couldn't hear me, so for those of you that couldn't hear me,
so
which one of us looks most like the logo right there? That's what we wanted to know. I mean, we look fairly similar, you know. So
it's just varying degrees of facial hair at this point.
yeah, that's true. And none of us have dials on our face yet.
I'm working on it. Cybernetic enhancements aren't up to date yet to like actually do that. I'm working on it though. I'm talking to Elon Musk in private messages about working on the next step of Neuralink.
Wow.
Which will
okay, yeah.
put
So
dials.
let's just talk
Yeah.
about you, Pine, and how you and Elon are doing.
Oh, I mean, we're great. I mean, he really supports the show. Listens to every episode. Hasn't been around a whole lot though. I think he's busy with I don't know some of the companies that he runs. But
Yeah.
Elon and I are exactly. Elon and I are going strong. Thank you for
Good.
asking.
All right.
Absolutely. So Scrimps, starting off, how have you been? I know that we actually had a couple questions come in from our listeners, just asking like what have you been up to since you haven't really been streaming this year much, and life has been pretty busy for you. So kind of just what's been going on.
So when I started my break from streaming at the end of MLM 64 was the last one that
Mm-hmm.
that I held, and then I think we did a little going away stream. That was because I
Yeah.
was moving from my current job and location in Michigan out to Chicago, where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And with the job switch and life switch, there was no longer room for a lot of streaming. So that's
Yeah.
where I'm at now. And another move coming very soon. So,
Yeah.
but after this
I
move,
think
I'll have a little more time for the creative aspects of my life, including streaming.
I know really exciting. And I guess one of the questions I have is, and I think that people may have speculated, given your stream when you were in Wyoming and and your tweets. I think people thought that you might have already moved.
Yeah.
So so why don't you? So when are you moving? And what is sort of your idea of what you want to do when you get over there?
Yeah, well, it makes sense that they thought I had already moved because you're gonna see a shirtless guy in the mountains, so won't be any difference there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just it's a lot of things in life really that led me to Wyoming, but basically a more desirable pace of life, uh,
Yeah.
some better professional implications for what I'm trying to do uh, with my investments and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, just another refresh on life. I've moved around my entire life, so it's almost more comfortable for me to move across the country again than to sit and stay where I am and feel content. I just got to move. I got to do new stuff. I got to learn new things, see new places. I'm comfortable. I'm okay. I could do this and survive, but that's not what it's about for me. I'm trying to be a sponge, gather experiences.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that I am similar in the sense of I have constantly been trying to learn more about different skill sets and what I can do. Like I've tried to teach myself a little bit of programming, teaching myself. I work in the business world, so I've learned a lot of advanced Excel techniques and stuff like that. But I've lived in Ohio my entire life. I was born in Ohio. I will probably die in Ohio. I will probably be in Ohio my entire life. So for me, I've had no desire to move that way, and I guess I've found comfort in the nostalgia of the area that I live in, because I
Mm.
grew up in a city 30 minutes away from where I am now, and I still go there, go on the beaches that I grew up on, and it's a little bittersweet at times because it's almost a memory of times that were better.
Yeah.
And if you're moving around, you can also not only experience new things, but you can leave some of your past that you might not want to remember behind.
And when you come back to it, it's even more nostalgic. It's, that
That's a very
nostalgia
good
factor
point.
still lives on.
That's good. Radio. Before we go on, because I have a couple more questions for Schkrimps about what he's been up to. Why don't you tell everyone what you've been up to with your work and how it's been eating
And how
away?
you're
You don't
dead
want
inside.
to.
Why don't you tell everyone that you're dead right now, Radio?
Why don't you just say what 2020 has been like for you with work and how chaotic it's been?
It's been really interesting actually because well, most people have probably been, doing the right thing and being at home and probably, trying to keep themselves safe. I've been doing the exact opposite, but because of work.
Yeah.
Um,
Preach.
it's great whenever you get to go on a plane and you have literally a linebacker right beside you, and you get the intercom going, please socially distance while you're on this plane.
Yeah.
It's great.
While
It's
you're
the
shoulder
best.
to shoulder.
Shoulder to shoulder,
Yeah.
arm in arm, if you will. Die together in this metal tube. It's going to be great.
Oh my.
And
I mean,
but on top of that, it's the hours, it's the
you've been
environment
working, yeah.
itself. I still work like I think anybody who does know me knows I work at least 60 hours a week, typically.
Yeah.
And it's only been picking up. Actually, during the winter is our heaviest time. So it's
Oh my
even a miracle that I'm on now. I just got off of a 12-hour shift. I was telling Pine earlier, I feel like death. There's not enough alcohol to fill, that soberness, I guess. So here we are.
Oh I honestly feel so worried for you most of the time. I don't know if I've told you this. I think I have at some points, but like I kind of anticipate and wait for the text message that you text me and say I have COVID and I'm, staying at home or quarantining for multiple, because like I just don't understand. I mean, you've been traveling almost every week for all of 2020 through when there was lockdown and now when like cases are surging and there's no lockdown. I'm just like, I don't know how you haven't gotten, or if you did, you just didn't even notice at this point.
That's the thing is
14 states. 14 states. Yeah, it's been 14 states I traveled.
Yeah.
And survived.
It's how many people have had it and
Yeah.
don't know.
Have
Exactly.
exactly.
There's no way that I haven't been exposed to it as a mailman.
Yeah, both of you.
I mean,
both of you.
I
yeah.
see thousands of people a day.
Yeah.
And
I know.
There's no way that I haven't been exposed to it, but and the majority of us will never know. It'll be like, yeah, I was a little sick during that time.
Yeah.
Can't get tested anywhere.
And that's the
or
thing.
Heck,
is like
you don't even feel it at all. You
right.
probably just pass it on like a plague rat.
Right.
Like, have fun with that.
That's the issue. That's like the thing that's I think the worst about this is if it was like a clear, like this is what happened when you got this disease and there was clear symptoms, it'd be like we could like it would be pretty easy. But the problem that it is so similar to cold symptoms and flu symptoms, which happen regularly anyways for people, it's like you're right. There's no way of really knowing if you had it, and there's a fair chance that you may have had it and just didn't realize, and you don't even know how long you might be immune from getting it again if you can get it again, right? So it's like all of these factors that just causes a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear in people regardless, and it's just, I mean, it's not great. I mean, one of the questions that
I got something to build on to that one real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask
keep
you,
going.
Pine. So what?
Yeah.
What kind of do you view the world any differently now than you did before COVID? Like, is your mindset changed? Like, I'm moving out to the mountains. I see what the government's doing with money. Like, there's a whole bunch of catalysts that have happened for me personally to make me think the way that I'm thinking and move the way that I'm moving right now. So how's it going for you in terms of that?
So many people from the arms community know of Para, the Springman player, one of the best arms players around. I would have a lot of philosophical discussions with him. Like, we had a lot of deep discussions over the last couple years, and we would talk, and I always had this argument where I would say that I think that humanity as a whole is getting slightly worse over time, over the generations. I think that everyone is selfish to an extent, right? We're all self-centered. We want what's best for us before others most of the time, and that's something that you kind of have to work on as you build relationships and care for your friends, care for your family, and whatnot. So I've thought for years that I think that humanity is kind of the same or getting slightly worse in terms of like how well we treat each other and how well we care for each other. I think that technology and social media and things like that have kind of tainted how we genuinely care for people or the genuine discussions that we have. It's kind of created more barriers and more problems. And because of that, I think COVID this year really showed me that when, I always think of the quote from The Dark Knight where the Joker says like, oh, when the chips are down, you'll see these people will eat each other. And like, I feel like I've kind of seen that this year to a certain extent, where people cared about the pandemic when it kind of first started, and they realized that it was going to affect them, and that it was a possibility they could get it, and we didn't really know what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone was kind of more cautious. And I've just seen over the summer and recent months, people have been not wearing masks like they that the I'm trying to think of the word, the government, the states, jurisdictions have said that you need to wear masks. People have been more laxed. They've been hanging out with friends. I've heard the argument of people saying, for my mental well-being and my mental health, I really need to be around people, which I get. I mean, I understand that being around people and being social is important to people's well-being. But I've seen just the sort of disregard for how people's actions impact others. Like, I haven't been as careful as I've been with COVID, because my wife and I have been very careful, because I'm worried about us. I'm worried about just anyone that I might have impacted or have caused this illness, that maybe doesn't kill them, but maybe they're going to have several years down the road of difficult symptoms from that disease, because there's been a lot of things that have shown that it's been lingering for people. So I just feel like it's gotten worse. It's gotten slightly worse. And I have a more of a negative view of humanity that kind of shows that people are as selfish as I think they are. And Radio, I see you raising your hand. What do you want to add on to
Very
that?
polite student.
Yes, sir. Do you think that is because of your personal experiences with COVID?
I mean, not really, honestly. Like, even before I had come down with what I now believe to be COVID, I couldn't get tested. So honestly, I still don't know. Technically, it could have been something else like pneumonia or whatever else. But even beforehand, I kind of think on the macro scale very early on. And I remember thinking back in like January when we first knew of it, that I was like, okay, this is probably going to come to the US. It's probably going to be a global pandemic. Just knowing how it spreads and how efficiently it spreads, I was thinking it's going to be pretty big and it could impact a lot of people. And I remember having this conversation with my coworkers, because there was like, oh, it only might kill 2 or 3% of people. I was like, if 2 or 3% of everyone that I knew disappeared from the planet, I would be traumatized. Like, everyone would be traumatized. If 2% of people that you knew were just like gone, um, I kind of thought from the beginning that like we need to be careful, because sure, it might not kill, it might not like wipe out lots of people, or wipe out the population, but you'll probably have at least 5 or 10 people that that might pass away, or be significantly impaired from this disease before it's over. And that could mean a lot. Like, think about, just if one person in your family or one person in your circle of friends got this disease and had a really tough time and were impaired for years to come, or passed away. I mean, that would change your life. Like, you obviously won't forget this year anyways, but that would really, like just drastically change your entire life outcome, you know? Um, yeah,
I
I don't know.
feel it.
I
Is
mean,
that is your viewpoint coming from? You've been pretty much quarantined, stay at home, haven't been out amongst the general population a lot since it started, right?
somewhat. I mean, we've gone to parks, we've gone to we haven't gone to any major social gatherings. No, I was working from home until just recently. Um, but yeah, no, I haven't been around. And and I understand the other side of the argument, which is that, the other thing is, every time unemployment rises 1%, people die. Like, that's a fact. People die when the economy suffers in any country. So, um, like, for me, it's like also thinking about the fact that that's a factor, right? It's like this really difficult balancing act, because
Yeah.
either way, people suffer.
It goes back to the
And
initial point you said about everybody's selfish to a degree. It's the
mhm,
same thing, and with it's a little difficult with masks because I'm pretty sure it the actual science behind it doesn't make sense to a lot of people that you're wearing it for
mhm.
other people and not for yourself.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
I think if everybody knew that, we'd see a larger acceptance of it. But uh,
mhm.
that's just one factor to the selfishness discussion. Then if you wanted to go one step further into the actual political landscape, I would say the majority of people vote based on their own personal situations and what's best for them and not what's best for everybody. So even when it feels like you're doing the
Yeah.
right thing, still you're on the other side of somebody else's right. And
Mm-hmm.
That's
it's to what degree is the selfishness, you know, you almost have to justify that for yourself.
Yeah.
that's
And
always
it's
been a hot
hard.
button for our family.
Mhm.
Because
Oh
with
yeah.
my
It's been a
family,
hot button
it's
for my family.
well, I'm actually, now that I think about it, I'm sure it's with every family, but but
Mm-hmm.
basically, I think it's interesting because you have the subjection of what is truth, and people hold that truth
Yeah.
as if that is like good and evil. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you'll associate people with those ideals, and if they don't fit that, then all of a sudden you need to think less of them a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's just a general speaking term there, not to get too heavy into it. So yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
actually a really interesting point that you bring up there to kind of put that out there.
No, that's a very good point, because you're also right that with how people receive information, especially in this day and age with websites and even Facebook and other social media outlets for people getting their news, um, you have to judge. You maybe have to think about how are people reacting selfishly or against their own selfishness in light of what they believe to be true in terms of their fact base. You know, because if your fact base is different than other people, what you might be doing might be actually really selfless, but you don't necessarily have the full information in front of you of maybe what is the best advice or the best practices to do. And that can be difficult to decipher that. I know. So one of the things, one of the questions that we actually have that ties right into this was, what is the most surprising change that has happened in your life due to the quarantine? And Schkrimps, why don't we start with you? Like, what? I mean, I don't think your life hasn't really changed a whole lot by this, it seems like. But what has the impact been, maybe personally or with your family or friends, that like has been the biggest change for you?
Um I I have a very unique situation throughout this whole time. Like you said, not much of my life changed. I was still going to work every single day, you know, from the time that, you know, we thought everybody's going to die to the time where it was just, oh, it's purely political now. We still
Yeah.
don't know what it is in the end. Yes, we do. It's a virus. We've seen it under an electron
Mhm.
microscope,
Yeah.
but that's not what I'm saying. Anyway,
Yeah.
so my viewpoint of it, I don't know. I almost feel like an outsider because nothing changed in my life, even
Mm-hmm.
though I'm
Yeah.
boots on the ground going through it every day on the front line and dealing with people and dealing with the uh, procedural consequences of, you know, people can't sign this, you have to sign up for them, can't drop things here, you can't go up to somebody's door, you know, outside of the smaller things in
Yeah.
life that are affected. I've just kind of sat back and watched all of this happen, both on the front line and through media. So
Mm-hmm.
it's it's almost like a messed up simulation where we're just going to say like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, well, that one went too far. Let's restart the
Yeah.
simulation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So much, so many politically charged movements and hard times on people all at one time. And it's kind of made a lot of things
Yeah.
boil over. And just I'm not actively involved in politics at all. I actively avoid it because they're all liars. But
Yeah. Yeah. They are.
but I just stay out of that stuff. So for me, when all the heat's been turned up, it's all in the forefront. It's in the front of
Mm-hmm.
everybody's face. Well, I see that, and
Yeah.
I still fact check and decide and critically think on my own and decide what to believe and what to, what's fear mongering, what's science, you got to be able to decipher things yourself. But
Yeah.
it's so
Dude,
I've basically sat back and watched all of this blow up and all the anger and all the feelings and just I've felt like an outsider while being on the inside, and it's never made me want to get out even further than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Just go to the mountains, get away from everybody.
Radio.
Yes,
Yeah. Why
radio
don't you
in the back
pick
of
it
the
up?
class.
I, I think actually it's amazing. The one thing that I thought was the most different I've seen in people lately was the amount of outrage. And if you're not outraged, someone is outraged at you for being not outraged. It's really
Yeah.
interesting because everyone has this belief that if you're not mad about this, you're not taking this seriously. And I don't know, it's just kind of weird seeing the amount of just kind of like anger, like Schkrimps was talking about, and widespread. It's not just our country, it's other countries too.
Mm-hmm.
I think about what just happened in this year alone. I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. The anger, it's all justifiable. It's all understandable. But
It is.
when you have to reach out on an opinion that you don't hold any personal stake in, you don't have any information, and you're just latching on, saying, "Ooh, oh yeah, me too. I'm on the good team." That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
the good people may listen to a conversation similar to that soon that we've had, but
Yeah.
um,
And
Absolutely.
just the virtue signaling, the Me Too movements of people just latching on to what seems like the right thing to say and do online to portray the person that you
Mm-hmm.
aren't. It's like, why are you spending energy on that when you could be spending energy
Yeah.
thinking about the issues and maybe thinking about a
Yeah.
solution? Whoa, how to fix
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Does anybody think about that anymore?
I do a lot. Um, but yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same way, Scrimps. Like it's both you and radio is that I feel like an outsider because in a lot of ways I am. Like, I haven't lost I did go through a job transition because of the pandemic. That was
hmm,
pretty much linked to the pandemic, but I'm doing fine. My wife and I financially, we've been okay through all of this. Like we're not very wealthy. We're like lower middle class still, right? But we're okay. I haven't been hit by that, and I've been keeping up. I do keep up with the articles on both sides of the political spectrum. Try to keep up with the news in terms of how COVID has impacted so many people's lives. And you read
Mm-hmm.
these articles about people losing their jobs, losing everything, just trying to struggle to support their family.
That's
And I haven't had to do that,
That's a
right?
big key.
Like,
Is you're focusing on how it's affected people's lives, and we're all people.
yeah,
It affects all of us. So that is the middle
exactly.
ground where you can start to evaluate things instead of
Yeah,
taking a side and
yeah,
then saying, "Why can't you meet me in the middle?" How about you worry about the person
exactly.
first?
Yeah,
yeah.
like I mean, everyone. Like that's the thing is, and we can kind of get into this as well with how the political divide is, at least in the U.S., has kept on growing and growing, and where it's just this sort of very toxic, um, angry, like anger on both sides, fueled at the other in a very strong and usually vocal way. But yeah, and I think about when you say how you don't necessarily interact with the political spectrum or other issues because you don't have any involvement in it. I feel the same way. Like I look at social media sometimes. I don't really post a lot, and I don't really want to post a lot because I'm like I don't have anything to say on any of these issues, and I could pick the good side because I understand that. But at the end of the day, I don't really have. I don't think I'm in the place to do that. Unfortunately, like I can show my support, and I do, but um I feel like I'm like I'm a white male in the US who's making ends meet. I feel very privileged because of that, and I want to do whatever I can to help, but it's also like I'm not in these these groups that that I have a say, I find, beyond showing my support. And it's
Yeah.
it's
And
it's just this weird time, and it's odd because it doesn't seem like for all three of us, we've been blessed. We've made it through the pandemic pretty much unscathed. uh
yeah, it's a contradictory thing to do, to echo an opinion on something that you haven't thought about. You just it's
mhm.
pretty clear on most issues, which is the part of the reason I hate politics, is most people are talking about the same thing. Like, it's pretty clear what the right
Yeah.
side of the issues is. Like, oh, should a
Mhm.
cop not kneel on a guy's neck for 12 minutes? Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Clearly.
I don't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
anybody saw that and said, well, yep,
Oh, that's
another day's work, everything's fine here.
yeah.
But it's like, why?
Yeah.
That was a very obvious issue. When there's issues where
Exactly.
not only do you not have the background to know what it was like to be from somewhere as some person, but how could you form opinions on this
Mhm.
person's situation when you aren't that person? And that goes across all races and issues. It's like, why are you sticking your nose in something that you're not going to help regardless of what you
Mhm.
have to say? And then if you aren't even in the position to form an original sentence and you're just echoing what somebody else has said, then you're only compounding what positive or negative thing there was to say in the issue, and you're not actually transacting in value anymore.
Yeah. I think the best thing you can do is sort of like take the topics that come up and the major issues like this, and it like weave it into how you live your daily life. Like, think about these issues, and that's what I've been doing all year, is all of these things that have come up, political, with COVID, with the Black Lives Matter movement and what happened over the summer. I now find myself thinking about these things daily and how I can make an active change with how I interact with everyone, um, to make the world a better place based off of the facts, right? And that's what I think you have the most impact on, is the day-to-day interactions, maybe in person, maybe you know whatever you say to people, every conversation you say to people can have an impact on them, and it can have an impact on you. And I think that that's where it matters, not necessarily on the online platforms where it sort of just goes into the void of this very um not always productive ecosystem. Radio, it seemed like you had something you wanted to say.
Oh, well, several, but
Well,
um,
we'll continue.
when it comes to things like this, when it comes to challenging your beliefs or thinking you have accepted what you believe in as truth, one thing that
Mm-hmm.
I think is really good to do personally is actively find the opposition, or what you call
Yeah.
opposition,
Yeah.
and welcome it. Try to see the light, or try to find a friend who has lived that kind of life, who has that background, who has that knowledge that you just obviously do not have.
Yeah.
And ask the hard questions, ask the easy questions, whatever makes you comfortable. But basically, if there was a poem that I had somewhere, and kind of goes somewhat along the lines of this: do I really know my opinion if I don't know yours? If I sail the same ship within the same path, will the sky ever change in contrast? It seemed like years of nights, the day behind doors, looking forward yet in circles, just like before. So no more, I'll set my sights for other shores. Never
That's a
know
good.
where
Yeah.
my thoughts will be explored. So
No, no,
always
that's
look
a very
forward.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
think it's what you said is correct. You should be willing and able to understand somebody else's side, but in the majority of interactions where there is an opposition, there's a switch that gets flipped in people's heads where it's fight mode and it's
Yeah.
defend a
mm-hmm.
side. And I think that is
Yeah.
where each person can hold themselves accountable, is by knowing that your truth is your truth and not the truth. And if you're
Yeah.
always in a quest to, like, the whole purpose of science is you form an opinion, you test it. If it's proven right, great. That's the science for right now. That doesn't mean that it's true. That means it's the current science. And if somebody
Mhm.
retests it and gets a different result, then it can change. And opinions in people should be the exact same way. You shouldn't be, oh, I've believed in this since I was 8 because my parents taught me this, therefore it's the truth and this is the way things are. You should
Yeah.
have a flexibility in your own definitive opinions because they won't be definitive forever.
Exactly. I've always, and my wife and I talk about this a lot, is that, we want to think that the world can be divided into black and white and that there are clear yes and no answers to every question or true and false. And the problem is that as you get through life and as you get older, you realize that the world is pretty much all gray. There's two sides to everything. It's a lot more complicated than initially appears most of the time on a lot of issues. And the problem is that we want to we you're happier and you're better off mentally a lot of the time if you don't challenge your viewpoints, if you're able to kind of stay in your comfortable bubble and keep those viewpoints that you've had for a long time. And it can be painful and difficult to confront the fact that you're wrong, or something that you're doing or thinking is wrong and hurtful to other people, and confronting that. So a lot of people don't. But I agree that the best way to live your life and the best way to actively help those around you and help communities at large is to be open to opinions and realize that anything you think might not be the right way, and maybe you need to learn some more, or maybe you need to open yourself up to more ideas. And if you do that, you're going to be a more fulfilled person, even if it's harder to get there.
Back of the
Yes,
class.
go ahead. Back of the class, go ahead.
What do you feel like is a challenging moment for you to maybe listen to somebody else instead of listening to your selfishness and be like, no, I'm not going to listen to that? What was a time where you felt challenged in that way? If that's a good, I hope that was
No, that's
straightforward.
good. That's a good point. I mean, my marriage, I would say, is a big component of that, because like everyone that I talk to and everyone in the arms community thinks I'm like, this really wholesome, always great person. And I think I'm that way to literally everyone except the people closest to me a lot of the time. Like I feel like the people that I'm closest to are the people that I let down the most with my flaws. Like my own selfishness
Well,
gets in the way, my own
pack it up, boys. You heard him.
Yep,
He's
we're
not
out.
wholesome. He's not
Yep.
wholesome.
Done.
Oh no. Oh crap. Well, that
Just kidding.
that could
How
have
can we leave
gone.
you? How can we leave you?
I think Schkrimps is really gone, actually.
He might be. He's probably just getting another drink.
Excuse me. Where's my friend
Oh, you came back.
PineappleFreak?
Hi, I'm right here. How are you
Oh,
doing?
hi. You look so wholesome.
But no, legitimately though, like some of my biggest issues in life has been with the people closest to me, of being selfish, of not being able to like actually confront my flaws. Right now, you're gonna choke on your water.
But no,
But
it's because you have to be more transparent with your family. Like they've seen you through
yeah,
all stages of your life. They know exactly who you are and they hold your opinion with more weight than they do anybody else's. Is
yeah,
radio dying?
exact. I think
I'm
radio
fine.
might be.
I'm fine.
He's
I'm
fine.
fine. I'm fine.
Okay, so
No, but
you're
that's
not wholesome. Radio's dead. What?
I was
this
never alive.
podcast.
I'm a radio.
Man, this really was the last episode of our show. Darn it. But
Ooh.
getting, I want to get back to the serious point here, if that's
GG's,
okay.
guys. It's been good.
Um, but no, like I think that I've realized, especially over the last couple years, especially after getting married, like being okay with the fact that a lot of the things about me can be improved, and I have a lot of flaws that I need to change, that I need to work on. And the thing is, like I think you get to stages in your life where you're like, okay, I've actually done it. Like I've become a better person. Like I've changed a lot of aspects of my life, and you might have done that, but I've realized that there have been multiple times in my life where I get there and then I'm like, I actually have a lot more to work on. Like there are other areas that like maybe the way I speak to people, the language that I use, the tone I use with people, like that might not be great, and there are things that I can work on. Like life is a constant improvement, and you kind of have to always check yourself on those things. And I think that that's where I've kind of like experienced facing my selfishness the best.
Or
You
like
know?
when you told people for 24 months that you were wholesome, and then you just said, nah, not.
I've never claimed to be like a perfect person ever. I mean, never.
Here
Or
we
a
go.
The
great
burden,
person.
Here we go. Humble
the
Dumble.
burden of having a name.
I
What
mean,
about
I
you,
think
Schkrimps?
yeah, what about you?
What, dealing with stupid people?
Dealing with
See?
That's
question.
See? And that's how you get in a fight. By assuming that the person's stupid because they have a different opinion than you.
For overcoming selfishness, what has been like what or dealing with it? What has been the biggest moment or biggest issue for you?
I think more so than selfishness, I used to have an ego, a bigger ego for sure. I was,
Mm-hmm.
in high school into combat sports and going to college for athletics and very in the army, very testosterone male filled
Yeah.
environments where you need an ego a little bit to survive, honestly, but
You do.
spent a lot of time reflecting on what all that was about for myself, and you just grow up, and I think that battle was more of a struggle for me than being selfish. I mean, I grew up no money, two brothers, so
Mm-hmm.
5 people in a house, and had no choice but to share everything. Plus, I was the youngest, so. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's selfishness I've ever had an issue with, but certainly some self-centered actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that's also, I think that was one of the quotes that I added to, I think, this episode that we haven't released yet, but it's a quote from C.S. Lewis where it says, humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less. I think that's a good way of approaching ego is
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
you're not thinking that you're worse off. You're not thinking you're like a bad or not an adequate person.
Mm-hmm.
You're just thinking about others more and thinking about what you can do to help those around you. And I think that improves your life a lot, and it makes it more fulfilling. Radio, I see you
Right.
very deep in thought over there. What's going on?
Well, I politely asked you guys those questions and I haven't even thought about it myself. So I was pondering that and I was like, man, what is that for me? And I guess since we're on that subject, I've been really gung ho about pursuing my dreams. And
Mm-hmm.
to the point that it gets in a way of human experience or living a life, forgetting to live and enjoy the people that are around you. I can't tell you how many weekends that my wife has gone neglected sometimes, and I feel terrible
Yeah.
about that. But at the same time, I also don't know how else I can do it. I think about the work that I do. I think about the time that I already do with everything else, whether it be with the podcast, music, friends, family, want me to build patios, whatever, and you just
Yeah.
you name it.
Low blow.
That's a personal one. At the moment.
Subtweet.
Dang it, Grandma. But yeah, I think that's it for me. Is sometimes desiring more of my personal wants rather than others in general.
Yeah. It's
That
tough. I
hurts
mean,
sometimes.
it does hurt sometimes. I mean, I think about my involvement in the arms community or some of the projects that I really want to delve more into, but because of work, because of my life and how I've chosen to set my priorities, being my wife, my family, my making a living, those things, I can't do everything that I want. And while I might want to, I also wouldn't want it any other way. Like, I'm okay with not becoming the best at something or becoming the best at certain fields if it means that at least the things that I care the most about are taken care of.
Well, you were number 1 on the ARMS dashboard for 2 weeks in a row. So I take it the pets didn't get fed during those couple weeks.
Yeah, no, those dogs died. It
Those
was
dogs
real bad.
died.
It's
Bark
terrible.
is dead.
He allowed it.
That's how Bark died. Wow, you're the least wholesome guy here.
Yeah, I mean, clearly radio is the wholesome part of the show. I don't know if anyone
His
realized
name's
that.
Radio.
But
I figured it was the transmissions portion.
no.
No?
Pineapples transmit acid through their shell,
This
and radio
podcast was not
transmits.
fact checked.
Radio, you're the wholesome part of the show, and I'm not. That's the flip.
No.
Hey, Radio,
Someone has to be.
Sonny wrote down your quote about humility.
Aw,
So
I'm really
you made
glad
a
to hear
difference
that.
out there, Radio.
Yay.
You're a real one.
Yeah.
What
You did.
was the quote?
Radio thonk.
It was about it was talking about humility, where humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less.
Oh, that was you?
That was you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
Maybe you could
so not wholesome in my eyes now that you can't do anything right.
that's fine. So steering away from
Griff, I'm still
discussions
wholesome.
and
Don't
whatnot.
worry. I'm the most wholesome
There are-
person here. It's okay, everybody. All right, go ahead. Unwholesome pie.
Yes. Okay, thank you. We have a couple other questions I want to get to, and this is kind of drifting away from the more serious discussions, and still talking about some serious discussions, but this kind of ties into also what we've just been talking about. One of our listeners, Griff, asked what inspired each of you to pursue your passions, and I think that actually is a great segue from talking about the difficulties with pursuing that. So let's start with you, Radio. I mean, you've been doing music basically your entire life. So what caused you to pursue your passions?
So many things. So I actually hated music at one point in my life. I hated the radio, listening to the radio. It's kind of ironic, actually, but it's really funny. I just remember thinking how generic sounds used to be.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to me that there was different types of music out there, and because my horizon started being broadened a little bit because of friends outside of my circle, I started thinking to myself, this is some good stuff, yo.
Uh-huh.
I want to do this. And I remember my dad brought home a guitar, and I had no idea what I was doing, and it remained that way for 6 or 7 months, and then eventually I picked up a tab, and I think from that point, it just clicked. And I don't know how to explain it, but I've never been so obsessed with wanting to do something in my life. And I think that really hit the nail in the coffin for what I wanted to do in my life. And just to put it out there and give some examples, I have been known, if anyone has ever had the experience of this, which very few people have. I'm laughing already. If you give me a bowl of rice and a weekend, I will still have half the rice left, not moved, and still recording music and still jam into it, That's just who I am. That's how much I enjoy this passion. I think that was a very clear indication this is what I want to do for me.
Yeah.
When you
And I
can't
know
play
that
the
you've been
chords
still
anymore because you're shaking, your blood sugar's so low.
My
Your
my
wife
fingers are
walks
bleeding
in.
and they're
Yeah,
the bones are showing.
right.
And the follow-up to this is also, how do you stay motivated? And I think this is especially applicable for you right now, because all of 2020 you've been releasing singles and producing music while working crazy hours, and kind of everything's been in the way. So how do you stay motivated at your passion through all of this?
Not gonna lie, it's really, really hard because I'm trying my best to balance it out when I can. Basically, the weekdays are just work. There's no time for much. This tonight was a miracle. Okay, it
It
felt
is.
that way, and so weekends are usually what I have, and kind of building off this for a reason. Um, but it turns out there are people who would like me to do things for them or want to see me in general, haven't seen me in months. It's always something. Family's birthday party I got to attend to, which is, those are
Yeah.
all great things. I love those things. But it also interferes with things I want to do. So, as you can imagine, sometimes it could be very dehumanizing for me when I don't get to do the things I enjoy. Um, so, what
Yeah.
I find is helpful for me as a musician is continuing to write down songs in my head, actually recording them down on my phone every now and then while I'm
Mhm.
working. Actually, I got a few that I have in my notes already.
That's
Yeah, they're
awesome.
looking good. They sound good in my head, at least.
That's good.
um, but always trying to find time to make up or balance some part of that is really helpful for me. Never look
Mhm.
at the lack of opportunity as an excuse. There's
Yeah.
always an opportunity in there to do something for the most part. You just got to find it and think about it a little bit more.
Mhm.
So
That's good.
that's me.
That's good. Schkrimps, what about you? I mean, I know that you also, I mean, one of your main passions is music. So, I mean, you can talk about that or or anything else for you.
What was the first part of the question?
Basically, what inspired you to pursue your passion?
Um, so with music, it was listening to music. Um, the Gorillas, Earth, Wind and Fire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, really right when I started to appreciate music was when the ability to burn your own CDs on a computer came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it um yeah, so a couple artists really inspired me. There wasn't a lot of music in my family outside of always listening to music. Road trips would be singing along to stuff, not
Mm-hmm.
this sort of singing along, but
Yeah.
enjoying it. Um, so yeah, music. I don't know. It does something different to me than anything else. I can make my own music that gives me chills. I can hear a song for the first time that makes me cry. I can get motivated to get up in the morning because of music. Something about before I even started to look into what was actually going on when you're listening to music, I enjoyed it. But then finding
Yeah.
out that it's just air being moved at different frequencies through your head,
Yeah.
and the fact that anybody can do that with their voice, and then if you put a certain combination of noises together on a track and make somebody listen to it, then it makes them move. There's something
Mm-hmm.
deeper about music that's not just using one of your senses. So I don't.
That's a good point.
Music's largely undiscovered in how it works and its capabilities,
It is.
and I could never. You could never beat music. I'll always be working on getting better at it, you know. So
Yeah.
that's why I like it, and that's the music side. Um, the entrepreneurial stuff that I'm doing, uh, that just involves me wanting to break out of the system a little bit. Don't want to work a
Yeah.
9 to 5. Don't really want to be told what to do. I don't want to look back in 10 years and say, oh, I could have done this or that. I just want to make
You
moves
want to
and,
do it.
and keep
Yeah.
doing it and
It's
keep
time to
discovering
move.
new
How do you
things.
how do you stay motivated?
Uh, like radio's saying, you largely don't stay motivated. It's the fight to catch those.
Just fight to maintain it.
Yeah, and it's so difficult working a normal 9 to 5 job and then coming home and trying to have energy and passion towards
Oh
what
yeah.
you've been doing. But
Yeah.
if you're really passionate about it, if you say I'm going to do this thing no matter what, then you'll find a way to do it. Like if you want to lose weight, but you're complaining that you work a 9 to 5 and you don't have energy when you get home, guess what? Get up at 5 a.m. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
There's 24 hours in a day. If it's worth
That's
it
what
to
I've been
you
doing.
to sacrifice some sleep to reach your goals, then you'll do it. It's
Yeah.
it's the motivations aren't they never come from external factors. It's your personal drive and everybody says they want to do this thing. Everybody says they have a dream to be a thing. But if
Mm-hmm.
you really feel that way, if you really have that fire, then you'll find a way to stay motivated about it. You'll find a way to make time for it.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
if not that you're asking for advice, but if somebody's out there like, oh, I just can't find the motivation to do my passion, well, maybe your
mm-hmm.
passion is a pastime and not a passion,
Yeah. No, that's a very good point.
which is fine.
Also in terms of
Just
pride.
enjoy it. Don't
Yeah.
try to beat yourself up acting like you made it a goal when it's just something you do in your free time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also think about in terms of when you say like prioritizing and getting things done. Um, nine whole grains who we had in our show had a really great analogy for this, and other people have used it too. Is the rock analogy, where if you have
Yeah.
yeah, where you put, if you, and this works as well, physics wise, if you put your biggest rocks in your jar first and you work on your priorities, your main priorities first, and then you have sort of what happens on the week to week being like pebbles that are thrown in. And then you have the grains of sand that you put in afterwards that are like the daily interruptions that happen. You can, if you focus on your main priorities, you can certainly find the time and get things done, even if you don't have a lot of free time. And I think that Schkrimps, both you and radio, have certainly done that when it comes to music or other hobbies that you have that you really push for, and you find the time and you push yourself to get those done. And then you let other things not fall to the wayside, but those become a little bit of the background. You can still get them done, but you're making sure that you get your passions taken care of. And that's really important. I mean, right now, Schkrimps, I know for you, your entrepreneurial interest in getting out into the country is your main goal, and you're doing a really good job towards that. So that's great. um I think for me, in terms of how I found my passion has always been video games, which is kind of like at this point I consider it kind of like Scrimps does, which is more of a pastime, like something that I know that is kind of more of what I do in my free time that brings me enjoyment. I would say passion wise, like this show and talking to people and having meaningful conversations is honestly my passion. Like ever since I was 14, I would talk to people that are in their 50s or 60s more than people my own age, because I enjoyed having deep conversations with people that much. Like I would talk, I back when I was 16, I started going to college, and I would hang out at my church that was up the road from my college for large parts of the day because I didn't have a car. My parents drove me and dropped me off at the college in the morning. I stayed there all day, left in the evening. So I would go to the church and talk to the janitor there, whose name was Dante, and we would chat for hours at a time just about politics and life. And I would really enjoy that more than anything else, because I don't enjoy small talk. I enjoy having meaningful conversations with people. And that's kind of what has kept me motivated doing the show. and also my time in the arms community. Like one of the reasons why I wanted to start this show was that I had so many good conversations, and I felt like I was able to actually help people with their outlook towards video games, with their outlook towards life, just by talking to them, that I wanted to expand on that and sort of broaden it and try to reach people and just try to help people get through life, because life is hard and I don't necessarily have all the answers. I certainly don't. And I don't think that everything that has been said on the show is necessarily like the most helpful advice. I hope that a lot of it is, but I just want to help people. And what keeps me motivated in that is that, I hope that as a society or as a community of people, we can find ways to improve ourselves and become better people. And that's ultimately what keeps me motivated, is the idea of helping others.
Now that was
And
wholesome.
that's what I love to do.
Now that's some wholesome stuff, Pine. That's what I'm talking
thanks.
about.
I don't try to claim anything. People can view me as a person and what I say and make their decisions off of that. That's fine.
He's back.
Thank you. And then a last question, Schkrimps, from our friend is, when are you going to come home from buying milk at the store?
I need you to read the whole question how he wrote it, because I can explain my way out of this one.
The whole question is, when will Papa Schkrimps return from the store from buying milk? When will you?
I don't believe that's how it was worded.
That is how it was worded.
When will not parentheses.
Here we go.
Quotation marks.
Quotation marks.
Mm-hmm. Quotation marks. Return from the store from buying milk? Question mark.
Right.
That's
so
it.
Papa Shrimp went to the store to buy milk to bring home. And Papa's at the store because they don't have any milk. And I can't come home until I have the milk because I wouldn't want my wife and kids to get upset.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay. Makes perfect sense to me. No further questions.
I mean, it's not my fault that milk's been back ordered for 7 years. You think I like living off honey buns and corn nuts?
I don't think so. I don't think that's your ideal lifestyle.
Right. Yeah, I'm doing this for them.
It's just, that's a very noble and selfless goal. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Of course. One of the questions that I think would be worth asking, this is kind of for you, Schkrimps, as like, what did you learn from your time as a tournament organizer for ARMS? What experience did you gain, and what advice do you have to like aspiring esports players or just kind of people pursuing that type of hobby or passion?
I think I learned a lot, and I guess I can just give some examples of that, which would also be advice.
Yes.
You need to have a very clear goal in mind. My goal for all of the tournament series that I ended up running was, aside from Ramen Bowl, was to have a tournament that could fit inside of 2 to 3 hours to make sure that everybody could sign up, get in, have a fun tournament, and have a little bit of time for their night or whatever they were sacrificing, because I understood, because I was giving up the same time to put the tournament on. So it's important to understand what you're trying to do, because I had backlash against my rule sets, against the times that I was running the tournaments. How could you have a single elimination tournament? This is awful. Well, I knew that opinion was going to be in the minority, because we had 40, 50 people signing up for MLM who did want to come and play at those times under that rule set. So I had to, I had to stay the course that I had planned, instead of saying like, oh, well, sorry, we'll make it double elim. Everybody stay 5 hours now. And then you end up with less entrants. So it's staying patient with people who come to you with questions like that, and it's also staying strong in what you know you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
do the best tournament, figuring out who's number one in the world, well, first of all, do it offline. Then do your double elim bracket. Have that's not a thing that can be accomplished during the course of a stream. So people who are
Yeah.
asking for that, you either need to make them understand that or move on and focus on the people who are there to do what you want to do.
And what would you say? I mean, you TO'd a lot of tournaments. You did 3 different tournament series, 4, I think. You also did the 3v3s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what did you like? What was your biggest takeaway from all of that? Like doing that for the first time, getting involved in a scene and tournament organizing. Like, what was your biggest takeaway?
That this is awesome. That I feel like these guys are my brothers and people that I've known for such a long time. It was
Mm-hmm.
just it was happened. It all happened so organically. I didn't buy arms with the intention of even running tournaments. I had never done it before.
Yeah.
But I started streaming. I was streaming like Mario Kart 8 before arms came out. Then
Mm-hmm.
it came out, was streaming on my old laptop it could barely run, and Junior popped in there. And then,
Yeah.
weeks, months down the line, things start happening. You start talking to people on VC, and next thing I know, I got 3 people from foreign countries and guys from 4 different states in my chat room, and we're just all hanging like we've been boys for years playing arms. So I think
Yeah.
to touch on something that we said in a prior podcast about when you go through something with another person, it bonds you. And we were using it in a negative aspect. When you go through hard times together, it kind of bonds you closer. Like that person's got your
Mm-hmm.
back, sort of thing. But in video games, everybody's going through the same thing by choice
Yeah.
and because they want to be there and because it's fun, they're choosing to come back. So it's not only a safe place if you find the right people around you, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
place of like communal joy. Everybody's here to do the specific activity of having fun.
Yeah.
That, and I think that was a lot of it for me because I didn't have any. I got a roommate, I got friends outside of this, and I can have fun with them. But having an entirely dedicated community who's focused on the same
Oh yeah.
goals and growing it and seeing it come from, nobody even knew about the game to some pretty nice sales on Switch and where we ended up. It was just a fun ride the whole time. I appreciated all the people and the community for sure.
I certainly feel the same way about my experience. Well, thank you. One of the other questions that we have from the same listener is, this kind of goes to all of us now, is do we have any games that we're looking forward to, or anything that you're looking forward to in the relative future, game related? Radio, I
Future?
think that
Oh
you may.
God.
I mean, you might have started just playing the game that I think you're looking forward to, which was Sakuna.
Oh yeah, we already knee deep in that one.
We deep.
What is it called again? It's Sakuna. Ru-
Sakuna of Rice and
Oh,
Ruin.
and how is that?
I actually really enjoy it. It's different. Instead of having most farming games, if you will, be
Yeah.
on the aspect of you grow every single thing you could possibly find. This game says, no, away with that. I will technically teach you one specific task, and you will do that the hard way every day. And they literally give you no instruction. It's great, actually, and it's perfect for that reason.
That's really funny.
It's like they did that on purpose. You can find these scrolls later on, but you have to literally learn everything the hard way.
That's
And
pretty cool.
you start off as this bratty person, and she's still bratty. It's great, but
But she learned
anyway,
something.
no, she does. She grows just like the
That's
rice,
good.
and But anyway, it's really good. I really recommend it for people who enjoy 2.5D fighters and
Okay.
partial farming simulators. There's like a really cool mixture of those. It's really odd.
That's good.
It kind of
Good.
gives me Spiritfarer vibes in a way, and that
Yeah, I was
game is
gonna
a bomb.
Yeah, I know. Shaylee
Love that
played.
game.
My wife played Spiritfarer and absolutely loved it. It was amazing. Schkrimps, what about you? Is there anything? I mean, I think you out of all three of us might play games nowadays the least, but is there anything that you're looking forward to?
That is most definitely true. If I had a list of games that were going to be released next year, I could tell you a whole bunch that I would be excited for. But one thing I know for sure is Minecraft caves and caverns, or
Yeah,
there's a
the next
Minecraft update.
there's a big
Yeah,
Yeah,
coming next spring, which will change the whole underground layout system, new
that's gonna be so
tunnels
cool.
and underwater lakes and stuff. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
That's good.
Smash DLC, everyone that comes out, I'm all over that. I still play
Mm-hmm.
a good bit of Smash.
Good.
There's and the second Pokemon DLC. Excited for that too.
The second Pokemon DLC came out.
No, the second one. The first one came out.
No, the second one also came out.
The Crown Chandra, right?
Yeah, the Tundra's
The Crown
out.
Tundra.
Yeah, it's
It's
out.
out.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm
I've
excited
played
for
it.
that. I'm excited for that because I haven't played it. The
I have.
22nd.
It's
Okay. All right. Thank
you
you,
should
Mario.
stream it. It's very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
need
I've been
more
playing that.
shinies.
Put it through with you.
You should get more shinies. There's a lot of every legendary is back. You can get every legendary and a lot of Pokemon.
Give me your birds.
You can get the birds.
I want
you can
to
get
see
all the
your
birds.
wings, bird.
Okay. All right, now you're
This looks a little
steering.
different.
Okay.
I think for me at least, the one game that I'm really looking forward to that I've been playing the demo of is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. That game is so good. It's so fun. I used to play Dynasty Warriors with my brother and my now brother-in-law back in the day when we were growing up. And I enjoyed it, but I haven't really enjoyed those types of hack and slash games anymore. But Age of Calamity does it. I mean, the gameplay is tight. There's a lot of added depth to it just being a hack and slash game, and it's so fun. I mean, I'm really hooked on the demo, and I definitely want to pick up the full game. Other than that, not much. I've found recently in the last 2 or 3 years that I honestly don't get excited for video games very much. Like there'll be people that are like, even my friends who are screaming about these new games that come out, and I'm like, that's really cool. Maybe I'll even try one, but something about it like recently just there's very few games that hit that point for me where I'm like really into it or really excited anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I mean, I think part of it is you don't have as much time, but also I think just like my taste in games, like I love JRPGs and I love grinding, killing enemies and stuff, but it just doesn't hit me the same way anymore. I don't really find myself like gravitating towards a lot of games now. So we had another question as well, which is more retrospective. Let me find the exact wording because it was worded really well. Are there games that you can surely say changed your life? And in parentheses, it's opened your eyes due to lessons or skills that you learned.
Ooh.
Who wants to take this one to
Lessons
start
or
off?
skills
Schkrimps.
that we learned.
Me going through my backlog.
Lessons or skills that
I
we
can-
learned. Sure. When I was about 11 years old, I rented a game from Blockbuster for the GameCube. It was some like theme park game, like a Universal Studios game or something.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, played it for the whole first night and could not figure out how to bring up the menu for the death of me. Hitting every button, calling people. There's no online tutorials at this point. There's no instruction booklet. So I'm a
Mhm.
little kid. I'm sure I was crying that day because I couldn't figure out the game that I had just rented, which was such a special moment. Went to bed, had a dream. Turns out you just hit Z. I figured that out in my dream. I was just playing and just hit Z,
That's
and then I was like, "Oh yeah, I can just hit." And then when I figured that out, I woke up and I was like, "Oh, thanks, video game gods or whoever just dumped that knowledge into my head." So yeah,
that is such a.
the lesson is get your sleep, and you'll figure out how to beat
Oh
any
my
game
goodness,
through your dreams.
that's so funny. Oh my goodness. What about games that have changed your life by just like changing your perspective and
By
outlook?
normal means,
Yeah, by normal means. Like, is there like one game that you can say just kind of opened up your like gave you a perspective on life or just things in general that you didn't experience beforehand?
I mean, aside from just patience in general and some problem solving skills, some puzzling.
Hmm.
Like if I were to get trapped inside of an actual dungeon, I think I'd have a better shot at getting out because of my video game experience. But no,
That's
I don't.
good.
As far as meaningful times in video games, for me, it's usually the people I'm with or
Hmm.
that era of my life where I learn something in that time, and the game is just kind of like music. It just accompanies time periods in my life. So I wouldn't say that I
Yeah.
like learned a valuable lesson from a video game character or anything, but so
Hmm.
dreamscape. We'll stick with that.
I like the dreamscape.
Yeah.
Radio, what about you? You seem like you're really thinking things over,
Mm.
Battery's really
as you
tired.
tend to do. Do you want me to do you want
I,
me to
I'm. I
start?
mean, it's both. All right. But anyways, I got three games actually.
Okay.
First one being Pokemon, and the reason why, because that is the first game I got to play with my first friend I've ever had, and we
Aw.
grew up together on Pokemon, and
Hmm.
that actually built um, that single game brought someone to me, and
Yeah.
it's different, you know. I don't know how to explain that, but just being able to think, oh, there's another nerd like me at that time was kind of special.
Mhm.
Being at that young age, I would get picked on all the time, but getting to see that, and then someone excited that I had the same thing that they did, and they were like, "Let's
Yeah.
bond," or in that language, it was, "Do you got a Charizard?" Um,
Are you flirting with me?
ooh, wow, big words. Anyways, so that's one. The next game I would say generally Nintendo games because I know, but I say generally because my family only kept those around, and when
Hmm.
when Thanksgiving happens, when Christmas happens, when a birthday party happens, you can bet one thing happening, and that's Mario Kart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mom's still bad at it. All right, she had 20 years to practice. She's still bad. um, but we have all these memories and everything from that, and so in that
Hmm.
sense, that's changed a lot for me because of how a video game brought my family closer together through experiences like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really underlooked uh, with people. And the last one, kind of corny, would be arms. And here's why. Before arms, I never had any fighting game experience. I never knew, well, I knew tournaments existed, but I never attended any. Arms was
Hmm.
the first game I decided to do all of that. And you know what? Started, an esports team, completely funded on my own. That was the entire project, was to fund people through personal means and eventually branch out.
Hmm.
And that was really nice to be able to do that for them. Um, on top of that, being able to go to tournaments and expanding with people, meeting with people who are striving to be the best as well and choosing to be, kind of like what Schkrimps was saying earlier, and trying to have the most fun out of that was really cool. And I actually got to meet both of you because of this game. You guys live in completely different states. If it wasn't for this game, I wouldn't know you guys.
Yeah.
And through my job, I still got to see both of you personally, and that's different.
Yeah, that
It
hits
is.
different.
It does hit different. I mean, you got like, it's crazy that after the scene has kind of died down a bit, I still talk to both of you regularly. And I mean, radio, like, it's weird. It's kind of weird for me to think about the fact that we've been like really close friends now for only about like a year and a half, but it feels like it's been way longer.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, like I don't know what I would do without you at this point. Like, yeah, it's arms. I would say arms is one of the same for me. Because of that, like I've never met such a great group of people and pushed myself in the same way, because I've never, same as you, never played competitive video games before, never went to tournaments. I didn't even know what a round robin was. My first arms tournament ever that I won, it was a local in Ohio that I went to, and they said, oh, it's going to be round robin. I'm like, what is a round robin? What the heck is that? Like, I have no idea. And they were like, oh, well, you play this person and you play this person, we'll tell you, don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, whatever. So like I learned that. I was able to actually go to offline majors twice, which was just unreal. And I would definitely think, like looking back, there's a lot of games similar to Schkrimps and you that there are periods in my life where games got me through tough times, or like I remember playing games and learning things through that. But the games that really stick out for me are Arms, um, Undertale. I played through Undertale with Shaylee, and that meant a lot. I thought that game had some really good messages about what compassion is and caring for other people, as well as Night in the Woods. That game also had a really good message, I think, on mental health, and I think I learned a lot from that game. I mean, Night in the Woods is set in Western PA, and it's in a similar area to where my wife grew up, and just sort of the struggles that go on in lower class families. And I thought that game had a lot of interesting things to say about it. And then, what was the other one that I was going to say? Crap, it was on the tip of my tongue. Now I've lost it.
It's gone.
It's gone. Oh, Pokemon. Pokemon Black and White. I got that game like the week before both of my grandma passed away when I was 16, and that was really tough because I was really close to her. And Pokemon was like my coping mechanism, basically. Like it was what I did to take my mind off things and also kind of process things. So I remember playing Pokemon Black like while my family was kind of in the basement at my old house, just sitting around, just not really talking to each other because there's like, what can you say? And I remember I was playing Pokemon, like that was something that really stuck out in my head. And I think about that, like even if the game doesn't necessarily say something important, playing the game can say a lot, and like just doing the things that you do in the game can help you process what's going on in your life in weird ways that aren't necessarily related, but are related inside your head.
Yeah, I just want to say you guys both cheated. I thought we were talking about like how a lesson in a video game plot taught you something. No. I'm just like, no, nothing.
Okay.
And you guys are like,
hold
video
on.
games have changed my life.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
You took it in a different way, which is fine. I mean,
But
you
to match
obviously would
that,
include Arms. You already talked about it to an extent.
to match that though, if we were just gonna go on that level, then I'd say Spiritfarer, because what that game teaches you is very important in life, and I can't spoil that for you. You just gotta play it for yourself. It's really good.
Yeah.
And just try it. It's good.
Just
it's
do
so
it.
good. Just do it. You won't regret it at all.
I
God,
still need to play that
cried.
more. I've cried in a lot of games. My wife thinks I'm crazy because like And I agree. I get way too emotionally attached to characters in TV shows and video games sometimes. Like I've cried at the end of multiple games. I've cried at the end of multiple TV shows. I get very attached to people, even if they're fictional sometimes. um, but I think I learn a lot. I think I learn a lot from stories. I think you can learn a lot from fictional stories, honestly. But one of the questions that I need to address is from Era, and it's just a
No.
statement more or less. It's Pine, stop eating Wooloos. Um, I'm not going to stop eating Wooloos because they're delicious and they make great lamb chops. I think that's pretty
You
clear.
look like a guy who would eat Wooloos.
Thanks. That's my goal.
Lamb chops every single Saturday, he says.
Every single day.
They're a source of food, you know? I mean, they have a lot of meat to them. It looks like, at least.
Yeah, well, the blood you drink is just iron. There's not a lot else in there. That's a daily thing.
I mean, we can't help the practices he embeds in his life. So like, I
mean,
can't stop
hey,
that.
no
He's in
part of that
Ohio.
Wooloo's going to waste.
Yeah.
That's wholesome.
I wear it as a coat. I make sure all the body parts of the Wooloo get put to use. I'm not wasting anything, okay?
Okay.
So, I'm doing my job as a human and animal rights activist.
Mm.
Would this taste bad?
All right. So
Hold
now
on.
that all the sheep are dead, Pine, what else? What else you got
No.
for us?
Honestly,
there.
that is pretty much that's basically all the questions that we had come in, and I just, I think it was interesting. I wanted this episode to kind of reflect on like 2020 as a whole, because we've been doing episodes throughout 2020, but not necessarily at like how the year has impacted us, how the year has impacted those around us. And I think that this was an important thing to do. Also, the idea of testing, doing a live version of our show for people to kind of watch live and interact with. And Schkrimps, again, thank you so much for hosting this and being a part of our lives and making this happen. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Mega dab.
I'll, you're the best dad. You're the best dad. Aw. But
Do I have to do the
but
leg
yeah,
up
I mean,
too, like the anime
yes,
girls? Ah,
do it.
ah,
Do it. You're only 30. You can do
ah!
it. Yes, it's amazing.
Wasn't that cute?
That
So
was
good.
adorable.
Oh my god.
I love it so much.
So good.
But
Thanks, Sarah.
thank you guys. Thanks to everyone who tuned in to this today. If you liked it, let us know, and we might try to do this again in the future for doing something live, doing something where people can interact with us. And we will probably be posting this on SoundCloud sometime in the future. We'll try to make that happen. We're a little backed up right now with episodes, so we'll get around to it. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We hope you have a great night, and yeah, stay wholesome.
Or don't stay wholesome.
That's my approach.
Hey, everybody's saying it was amazing. It was fantastic. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and
Thank you guys.
hopefully I can get you a little video gaming streams. Oh no, Hyper.
Absolutely. Oh no, hypertext.
But yeah, JM, Eric, Riff, Luna, Mario. Who else has been here the whole darn time?
We've had a lot of people.
Everybody's here. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
And you'll catch us next time in the mountains.
Exactly. Yeah. We will see you next time. Adios.